percussion, violin, and Frank Brawley, piano.
？This is hot. It's like a giant mouse pad. Oh, we're on.
The time right now is 33 minutes past 8, and joining me in the studio, as it is a Thursday, Howard Elias. Good morning.
Good morning, and I'm wearing my
Avenger glove.
Glove. I don't know what.
What character does that belong to?
This belongs to Thanos, or I guess he stole it, and these are the 6 Infinity Stones. If you're wondering if you're listening, you're wondering what we're talking about.
Yeah, be descriptive.
Yeah, watch. No, I'm just going to say, turn on to Facebook Live.
Yeah, you can do that as well.
Right, and you can watch. It's Howard for Film, FOR, Howard FOR Film on Facebook, and then you can watch us. So this is the glove of Thanos. We got this last night. Disney gave this out to everybody who came to the screening last night.
It looks more like a mouse pad.
It looks like
function as a mouse pad.
Yes, it's basically a giant mouse pad. In fact, everybody thought at first it was a mouse pad, but and it's very hot.
You can actually wear it too.
And you can wear it, yeah. And it's quite hot.
It's in winter.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know that I'd want to walk around the street wearing this, but
okay.
So,
do tell us about the this next installment.
In
the franchise.
All right. Well, so first, let me say, why am I talking about this film? Well, of course, it opened yesterday, but it's the only film to open this week in Hong Kong, which is really rare. But I guess all the other distributors, have said, we concede. We give up. We're not even going to try to compete. And, probably that's a good decision because the advanced box office for this film is huge. Apparently in the States, I guess in the States, it's estimated that it's going to take into over $200 million this weekend alone, making it the biggest opening for any film ever. Do you know which film has the record right now?
No.
I think it's the last Star Wars film, or maybe it's the one before. I don't know. It's one of the past 2 Star Wars films. I can't remember which one. So this one is estimated to beat that and be the biggest film to open ever.
Wow. And what is the ages that would attend this film that would really enjoy it?
Well, it's
the age range.
Yeah.
It seems like it's like, for kind of like much younger people than you and me.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I was one of the oldest people in the cinema last night. Yeah, it's not for our age.
I'll tell you why, because I've seen an exhibition. There are things happening all over Hong Kong, and there was an exhibition in a shopping mall. And, and just so many kids standing in front of these big, huge,
Yeah, they have these models. They're larger than life.
Yeah,
models.
Much. They're like to the ceiling.
Yeah, there's I was at IMAX in I Square yesterday, and they had an Iron Man, and I know Elements also has an Iron Man. But somebody took a picture, I saw on Facebook, of there's a Black Panther somewhere.
All over, and it's just such a big attraction for kids. You walk by and you see all these kids and their parents are taking photos. And you wonder, are they going to go to see the film? Probably, highly likely.
Probably.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So
a few times each. Yeah. It's not for our generation, sadly. It's for the coveted demographic of 18 to 29.
That's what I was looking for. That was the word demographic.
Demographic, yeah. So, yeah. So, anyhow, this is apparently the 17th film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I haven't seen all 17. I've probably seen 5 or 6 because I am not a fan.
Okay.
But, in fact, when I went last night, I brought along a friend of mine who is a fan, and he says, "You hate these movies." I go, "Yeah, I know, but it's the only movie opening this week. I got to review something."
Okay, so please do review it.
All right. Well, before I talk about what the film's about, let's do the math together. So this film, Avengers Infinity War, is 152 minutes long, and it features almost everyone in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is about 33 characters, and that means that each character had on average less than 5 minutes of screen time.
That's 4.606.
That's right, 4.6. I also did the math. So it's about 4.606. So they each had about less than 5 minutes of screen time. Now, if that sounds like it's the makings for A Dog's Breakfast, you might be right. That is, if you're not a fan of the franchise. And there was talk And I was one of the people talking, saying, this is going to be a disaster. You know, to have so many stars in a film, it's just, how can it work? But then you have the fanboys and the fangirls who are going to love this film no matter what. And they are loving this film no matter what. So if you are a fanboy and a fangirl, you might as well stop listening to me now. Because you're going to be very angry. Now, when we last saw, I'm not going to spoil, there's no spoilers. Well, there might be one or two spoilers. I'm going to really try not to do a spoiler. When we last saw this franchise, we were in Wakanda with Black Panther, and we were loving its high tech and its cool vibe. Did you end up seeing Black Panther?
No, I didn't, but I was thinking that was the film that's already been the highest box office, because apparently it just goes from strength to strength.
It's one of the...
and it's still running and still...
making money. Yeah, it's one of the highest grossing films ever, but its opening wasn't one of the highest.
Oh, okay.
So it needed a bit of traction. So I think once after the opening weekend did very well. I don't want to take anything away from it. But then after that, and the word of mouth went out that what a great film it was, then it just took off. So anyhow, so in the last film we were in Wakanda, and we were loving its high tech and its cool vibe. It was a great film, loved it. And I hate this franchise, but I love that film. Now, at the end of that film, we saw that Bucky Barnes, and you don't know who Bucky Barnes is, Stacey, but trust me on this one.
Kind of right. Lost face.
Lost face. Well, Bucky Barnes is one of those characters. He was in Wakanda, and he was recuperating after the Civil War that went on between the Avengers, and that was a previous film. Now, before that film, we were with Spider-Man, and Tony Stark was telling Peter Parker to go back and be a friendly neighborhood crime fighter. Now, why am I telling you this? Because it's setting up this film. Before that, we were with Thor, and we saw that his world was destroyed, thanks to his sister, and he had lost both his hammer and his eye in the process, one of his eyes in the process. And in that film's post-credits scene, Thanos, and that's why I'm talking about this. Thanos is the villain of this film. Thanos was hot on Thor and Loki's trail in search of the Infinity Stones that would bring him immense power. So on this glove, which I'm showing on the video camera here, there are 6 stones. And each of these stones has a certain power. And if you have all 6, you have, ultimate power. And before Thor, we were grooving to 70s music on Peter Quill's mixtape in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And in that film, Gamora found her sister Nebula, and she was trying to build a relationship with her because they had a fractured relationship, as many siblings have. And, by the way, baby Groot was entering adolescence. So you're looking very blind, glazed at me.
Continue.
Okay. So we know all this going into this film, all right? Now, if you haven't seen any of those other films, it really doesn't matter. You can figure out what's going on in this film, but it doesn't hurt, right? Because this story, Avengers Infinity War, covers so much ground, there's no time for character development. So you have to take everybody as they are. And because I haven't followed all these Avengers films, there were some characters I didn't even know who they were. I just went, okay, I just shrugged my shoulders. I said, okay, this one's got that power, this one's got this power, these two are in a relationship. You just take everything at face value and go with it. So you can survive. If this is going to be the first Marvel film that you've seen, you can survive without knowing. But as I said, there's no character development here, and you don't really know what their motivations are. So you just say, okay, fine. It is what it is. So what this film is about is Thanos, who we've known for a while now. He's on this quest throughout the galaxy to find these 6 Infinity Stones that'll fit into this gauntlet that I have in my hand. Well, not this gauntlet, but, that gauntlet. He's already got 2 of those stones as the film opens. And when the film does open, he's convincing, and I use air quotes on the word convincing, he's convincing Thor and Loki to turn over the one that's in their possession. Doctor Strange has the 4th one. Gamora, who you remember is Thanos' daughter, she knows where the 5th one is. And the 6th one just happens to be in Wakanda. So that's how, so all those things that I mentioned before, everything comes together in this film. So now the Marvel Cinematic Universe heroes have to put aside all their old beefs because they had this civil war and some of them don't like each other and it's all a bunch of confusion. So they have to put aside all those troubles that they had in the past and they have to band together to stop Thanos before it's too late.
Sorry.
So that's what this film is all about. Now, my biggest gripe with this franchise is that these films are too long. And this one is just too long. It's 2 hours, 32 minutes. Yeah.
Oh, dear.
And they throw everything into it. They just, and they're all the same. And I've said this with all these other films. Less is more. Right? Less is more. But
and
here,
I would have thought the demographic certainly doesn't have the kind of like stamina.
Yeah, we have. There's a wonderful Yiddish expression called Sitzfleisch, or in German, I think they call it Sitzfleisch. Like the meat that you can sit on. That if you don't have enough meat on your bum, it hurts to sit so long. And
right.
Mm-hmm. So that's, you'd think that demographic would be a little bit antsy, but no, everybody seemed to enjoy it, But I looked at my watch a few times and I just thought, isn't this film over yet? But I didn't hate the film. I didn't hate it. I'm being very picky, but that's my job. So not only do the film's writers have to deal with Thanos trying to get these stones and ensuring that all the stars in the film, all 33 stars in the film, each have their 4 minutes and 40 seconds of screen time. Or I guess since it's 4 point, what'd you say, 4 point?
I will have to do it again.
Yeah, it's slightly less than 40. So 4 minutes, let's say 4 minutes and 34 seconds of screen time. They also had to tie up more than a few loose ends in the narrative. So for example, and these are sort of spoilers, but not quite. We knew that Bucky Barnes lost his arm in Avengers Civil War, and we knew he was on Wakanda. So it doesn't take too much to, if you've seen the Black Panther film, it didn't take too much to figure out that Shuri, who's T'Challa's, you're looking at me glazed eyes again, that T'Challa's sister is going to make Bucky Barnes a new and better bionic arm. And sure enough, she does. Okay. Or somebody does. He gets a better arm. We also know that Captain America had lost his shield. Well, you sort of think, okay, he's probably going to get a shield back. Well, so these things, we know, things that were left dangling in all these other films are somehow going to get resolved in this film. And then new things are going to get dangled in this film and be resolved in the next time or something. So adding all these things in, you have one very long, in my opinion, bloated film that sometimes gets weighed down in all these subplots. Now, fortunately, the story also has a generous dose of humor, thanks to the Guardians of the Galaxy team and Thor. They're the comic relief. Bruce Banner, the Hulk, also tries his hand at humor but fails, in my opinion. I didn't think he was funny at all. But I mean, the guy next to me laughed a few times. But the best lines were delivered by the Guardians of the Galaxy team and Thor. And in fact, there's scenes where they're all together and the banter going back and forth was quite good. If it weren't for these characters, this film would be a completely grim downer, which I don't know downer maybe is a bad choice of word, but it would have been grim. Let's just say it would have been grim, very dark, which maybe would have been okay. I don't know. We've had, when I think about the Star Wars Empire Strikes Back, that was a dark film, and I loved it. So I don't know that they could have done without the humor, perhaps, but okay. They put humor in. The other thing that I think that they did wrong here was all that coolness that we saw in Black Panther just got chucked out the window in this film. Wakanda is no longer cool. The people of Wakanda are no longer cool. And yeah, there was one scene and I was thinking about this during the film, and my friend said to me afterwards, he said, did you notice that Captain America became the savior of Wakanda? White man becomes savior of the black people. And I said, yes, I noticed that too. And I thought that was a mistake. So that was one of the nice things about Black Panther, is that you had the black people being their own saviors. And now in this film, they've gone back to that, that very tired trope of white people saving black people. So I think that was unfortunate. Now, although I'm complaining a lot about this film, it's not bad. Okay, it's slightly better than average in my opinion, but if you're a fanboy or a fangirl, you're not going to care. You're going to see it 3 or 4 or 5 times. You're going to love it. This film's going to make $1 billion or $750 million. You know, it'll certainly be up there. And, you know, they'll love the film no matter what. And certainly when I was coming out of the cinema last night, there were a lot of smiles on people's faces and everybody was excited. So I'm just like, what's the expression? Like somebody who's, finding fault, you know, like, well, I can't.
Nitpicking.
Well, nitpicking, no, there's an expression. I want to say loosey-goosey, but that's not the expression. It's too early in the morning. But anyhow, so, yeah, you know, if you're a fanboy or fangirl, you're going to love this film. If you're my age or Stacey's age, you know, don't.
I don't know that I wouldn't like it. It's just that I have never... never bothered to see any of them.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Maybe if I did, I might say otherwise.
Yeah. Now, I saw the film in IMAX 3D. I am not a fan of 3D because unless you're sitting...
It really gives me a headache.
Yeah, unless you're sitting straight in the middle of the cinema, it's very dark, you know, because the glasses make everything dark. So, you know what, skip the 3D. It's not needed for this film. There's nothing that flies off the screen into your face that you're going to, you know, jerk. You know, there's none of that. There's none of that stuff. Certainly IMAX is good because it's a big screen. So certainly see it on the biggest screen that you can see it on. Don't watch it on an illegal copy on your mobile phone, which I'm sure will be out in the next few days. Don't do it because you're going to not get a good view. So yeah, skip the 3D. Go see it.
You'll do that for other reasons as well.
Yeah, and for other reasons as well. So on the whole, I'd say this is, as far as I'm concerned, this is a better than average film, not a great film, certainly not as good as Black Panther, not as good as Thor Ragnarok, better than some of the other Avengers films that we've seen, and certainly, as I said, there's a few things, very important things that are dangled at the end that you think, okay, how are they going to fix this? And of course, I'm sure they'll get you back in. I think the next film up is Ant-Man and the Wasp. I'm not sure when that's coming. It's sometime in this June, I think.
Let's hope it's a very busy week.
Yeah, yeah, right. No, I wouldn't mind seeing Ant-Man and the Wasp because it's Paul Rudd, and I like Paul Rudd, and Evangeline Lilly because she's Canadian. Yeah, I think that's coming in June. I'm not sure. So that's my take on Avengers Infinity War.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Howard Elias.
See you.